Okay, so you know that feeling when you tell yourself you're going to resist something, but then your inner 5-year-old just kind of takes over.
Yeah, me too. It's like we all struggle with willpower. We know we should eat that salad or go for that run or resist that late night online shopping spree, but sometimes it's like there's this inner saboteur just waiting to totally derail our best intentions. So what if I told you that willpower might not be the key to actually achieving our goals? What if we've been looking at this whole self-improvement thing kind of the wrong way? Well, that's exactly what Alexander Loyd argues in his book, Beyond Willpower. And honestly, this book really got me thinking about my whole approach to, well, pretty much everything. It starts with this crazy statistic. 97%, that's the failure rate of typical self-help advice. It's all about willpower. 97%. No wonder so many of us feel like we're constantly hitting a wall, right? So what's the alternative? Well, Loyd says the problem isn't a lack of willpower. It's that we're fighting against something way deeper. These things he calls cellular memories.
Okay, I know it sounds a little out there, but bear with me because it's actually super fascinating. Think of it this way. Our cells hold memories, right? Not just stuff like facts and events, but also emotions, experiences, all that stuff. And get this, these memories can actually influence how we react and behave today, even if we're not even aware of them. For example, let's say you have a fear of public speaking. Maybe you had a really bad experience in school, like you froze up during a presentation or something. Well, even years later, that memory could be stored in your cells, and it might be triggering that anxiety and fear whenever you have to speak in front of people. And here's the thing, a lot of these cellular memories are rooted in fear. So even if we're not in any real danger, our bodies might be reacting as if we are, all thanks to these hidden fear-based memories. Loyd gives this example in the book that totally resonated with me. He talks about this guy who had a major road rage incident, totally flipped out on another driver. But when they talked about it later, the guy realized his reaction was completely out of proportion. It wasn't really about the other driver cutting him off. It was about this deeper fear of losing control that stemmed from a childhood experience where he felt powerless and scared. See, these cellular memories can totally hijack our reactions and make us behave in ways that don't even make sense on the surface. And this brings us to Loyd's core principle, what he calls the greatest principle. And it's this. Pretty much every problem we face comes from an internal state of fear. And that fear, you know what? It ultimately comes from a lack of love. Now, I know this might sound a little, touchy-feely at first, but stick with me here. Loyd's not talking about romantic love. He's talking about a much deeper sense of love, like love for ourselves, love for other people, and love for life itself. And he argues that when we're operating from a place of fear, we're always trying to find external things to fill that void. I think, if I get that promotion or buy that bigger house or find the perfect partner, then I'll be happy. But Loyd says that's totally backward. We need to find that internal state of love first, and then all that external stuff will naturally fall into place. He actually shares this really powerful story in the book about his own aha moment, this profound experience where he shifted from a state of fear to a state of love. And it completely transformed his whole life, his relationships, his work, everything. So, okay, we get it. Cellular memories, fear, love. But how does this actually play out in our day-to-day lives? Well, Loyd explains that these cellular memories become like reference points for our brains. They're like these little files that our brain pulls up whenever we encounter a similar situation. So if we have this fear-based memory associated with, let's say, failure, then every time we face a challenge, our brain might automatically go to that fear response, even if it doesn't make logical sense. He uses this analogy of a stress barrel. It's like we all have this barrel inside of us, and every stressful experience, every negative emotion, every fear-based memory, it's like adding another drop to that barrel. And eventually, it gets so full that even the smallest thing can make it overflow, leading to an overreaction or a meltdown, or just this general feeling of overwhelm. And here's the crazy part. Loyd says we can actually inherit these cellular memories from our ancestors. Like our grandparents' fears and traumas can be passed down to us, and they contribute to our own stress barrel, influencing our behavior in ways we might not even realize. So you're probably thinking, okay, this is all pretty interesting, but what do I actually do about these fear-based memories? How do I empty my stress barrel and start operating from a place of love? Well, that's where things get really exciting, because Loyd doesn't just present the problem, he offers solutions. And one of the key solutions he talks about is aligning with truth. He introduces this concept of de facto beliefs, which are beliefs that are rooted in a deep understanding of truth of how things actually are. Think of it like this. A de facto belief is something that's just undeniably true. Like the fact that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, you can't argue with that, right? It's just a fact. And Loyd says that when we align our beliefs with these fundamental truths, we create this solid foundation for lasting change. Now, he contrasts de facto beliefs with what he calls placebo and nocebo beliefs. Placebo beliefs are based on hope, like thinking if I just believe hard enough, I can achieve anything. And while positive thinking is great, Loyd argues that it's not enough on its own. We need to ground our beliefs in something solid, something true. And then there are nocebo beliefs, which are based on fear, like thinking I'm going to fail or I'm not good enough or something bad's going to happen. And these fear-based beliefs can actually create a self-fulfilling prophecy, attracting the very things we're trying to avoid. So Loyd's message is this. If we want to break free from fear and create lasting positive change, we need to identify those de facto beliefs, those undeniable truths that align with love and empower us to live our best lives. And one of the most powerful de facto beliefs Loyd talks about is that we are inherently loving beings. Like deep down at our core, we are all connected by love. And when we tap into that truth, it changes everything. Now, I know this might all sound a little abstract, but trust me, it gets really practical. In the next part of our deep dive, we're going to explore the specific tools Loyd gives us to help us deprogram those fear-based memories, reprogram ourselves with love, and start living from a place of truth and empowerment. So stay tuned, because this is where it gets really good. All right, so we've talked about the problem. Those pesky cellular memories that are like rooted in fear, filling up our stress barrels and making us react in ways that don't always make sense. But the good news is, Loyd doesn't just leave us hanging, right? He gives us these really amazing tools to actually do something about it. And these tools are designed to help us do two main things. First, to deprogram those fear-based memories, and second, to reprogram ourselves with love. Because remember, love is like the antidote to fear, right? It's the key to like unlocking our true potential and making some serious lasting change. So what are these magical tools? Well, he calls them energy medicine, reprogramming statements, and the heart screen. Now, I know some of these might sound a little woo-woo, but just stay with me here, okay? Because even if you're a total skeptic, I think you'll find some valuable stuff here. Let's start with energy medicine. This is based on the idea that our bodies have this energy field, and that by working with this energy field, we can actually shift our emotional and mental states. Loyd gives this specific technique where you place your hands on different parts of your body, like your forehead, your heart, and the top of your head, while focusing on these specific intentions. And he says this can help release trapped energy, calm your nervous system, and even like promote healing. Now, I'll admit, the first time I read about this, I was like, is this guy serious? But I decided to give it a try anyway. And you know what? I was actually really surprised by how effective it was. Like, I felt this sense of calm and peace just wash over me. It was pretty wild. So if you're feeling stressed or anxious or just kind of out of whack, I definitely encourage you to give energy medicine a try. You might be surprised at the results. Next, we have reprogramming statements. These are basically affirmations, but like on steroids. Instead of just repeating these vague positive phrases, Loyd gives us these very specific statements designed to target those deep-seated fear-based beliefs and replace them with, love-based truths. For example, let's say you have a cellular memory around not being good enough, right? Loyd might suggest a reprogramming statement like, I am perfectly loved and accepted exactly as I am. And the idea is by repeating this statement over and over with feeling and conviction, you can actually start to rewire your brain and create new neural pathways that are more positive. And he really emphasizes the importance of actually feeling the truth of these statements, not just mindlessly repeating them. It's about aligning your thoughts, your emotions, and your energy with the love-based truth that you're trying to embody. Okay, and finally we have the heart screen. This is a visualization technique where you create this mental image of your heart being filled with love and light, and then you project that love and light out into the world. Loyd says that this can help to raise your vibration, attract more positive experiences, and even create a more loving and harmonious reality around you. It's basically about using the power of your imagination to shift your energy and actually influence your experience of the world. Now, I know all of this might sound a little far out there, but listen, Loyd isn't just some random guy making this stuff up. He's a doctor, a therapist, and a researcher who has spent years studying the science behind these techniques. And he presents some pretty compelling evidence that these tools can actually create some real measurable changes in our brains, our bodies, and our lives. He even delves into the spiritual side of things, suggesting that by connecting to a higher power, whatever that means to you, we can actually tap into this unlimited source of love and healing. And he provides some fascinating research that shows how things like prayer and spiritual practices can positively impact our brain function and overall well-being. But the thing that really resonated with me is that it's not just about applying these techniques once and expecting a miracle. It's about actually integrating them into our daily lives, kind of like creating a spiritual hygiene routine, right? It's about consciously choosing love, choosing to experience and receive and send only light and love, even when things get tough. It's about training our minds to focus on the positive, to see the good in ourselves and others, and to believe in the power of love to heal and to transform. So yeah, maybe these tools aren't for everyone, but I really do think there's something here for all of us, even if it's just the reminder that we have way more power than we think. We can choose to live from a place of love, not fear. And by doing so, we can create a more fulfilling, meaningful life for ourselves and for everyone around us. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll be exploring some practical ways to apply Loyd's teachings, including his really interesting insights on setting goals, overcoming challenges, and creating a life that's truly aligned with our deepest values. So stay tuned, because the best is yet to come. All right, so we've talked about all these amazing tools Loyd gives us to deprogram that fear and reprogram ourselves with love. But now let's talk about, how do we actually use these tools? How do we apply them to our everyday lives, like to our goals and challenges and all that stuff? Well, Loyd gives us this roadmap, and one of the most interesting things he talks about is goal setting. And he's got this kind of radical approach. He says we should really only focus on goals that are like 100% under our control. So what does that even mean? Well, think about it. Like, let's say your goal is to, get a promotion at work. Is that really completely in your control? Not really, right? Your boss might have different plans. There could be budget cuts, all sorts of things could happen that are totally outside of your control. But what is in your control is like how you show up every day, your attitude, your work ethic, how you treat your coworkers. So Loyd's saying, instead of obsessing over the promotion itself, focus on becoming the kind of person who deserves a promotion. Focus on what you can control. He also talks about these things called success desires, which are kind of like the deeper reasons behind our goals. Like, what are we really hoping to achieve? So, if your goal is to write a book, your success desire might be to share your story or to inspire people, or maybe to create something beautiful and lasting, And when you connect with that deeper desire, it's like tapping into this wellspring of motivation that can help you push through those inevitable challenges and actually get stuff done. But okay, let's be real for a minute. One of the biggest challenges to living from a place of love is, well, it's other people. We all know those people, right? The ones who just push our buttons, the energy vampires, the ones who make us want to scream into a pillow. So how do we stay centered in love when we're surrounded by all that negativity? Loyd gives some really solid advice. He says it's super important to set boundaries, to protect your energy. Don't let other people's negativity drag you down. And this is a huge one. Forgiveness. Not just forgiving others, but also forgiving ourselves. He's holding on to anger and resentments like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. It just eats us up inside. And he reminds us that, everyone's fighting their own battles, right? Everyone's got their own stuff going on. So instead of judging, try to practice compassion, he even talks about this idea of practical spirituality.
It's about taking all these beautiful spiritual principles, love, compassion, forgiveness, and actually living them in our everyday lives. It's not just theory, It's about remembering that we're all connected. We're all in this together. And one of the most powerful things Loyd says is that our real power comes from aligning with love. It's not about trying to earn love or prove ourselves worthy or anything like that. It's about simply recognizing that we're already loved, that we're already whole and complete, just as we are. Now, I know this is a lot to process, right? But the great thing about Loyd's approach is that it's not about being perfect. It's about progress. It's about taking baby steps, making little changes here and there and trusting that those little shifts are going to create these huge transformations over time. He suggests starting small, just focusing on living in love for the next 30 minutes. Whatever you're doing, just try to approach it with a loving attitude. See the good, be kind, offer forgiveness. And honestly, I found that even just doing that for a little while can make such a huge difference.
It's like creating this little pocket of peace in the middle of all the chaos. So if there's one thing I want you to take away from this deep dive into Beyond Willpower, it's this. You are so much more powerful than you think. You have the ability to choose love, to let go of fear, and to create a life that is truly fulfilling and meaningful on your own terms. It's not always easy, but it's so worth it. And Loyd's book gives you everything you need to get started, so check it out. And until next time, keep choosing love. You got this.